guys, it's Janie. Welcome back to the Bookworms Buddy. Today I have a double feature for you. We'll just chalk it up to laziness because I didn't want to do two separate reviews on these two books. But I read these two books really close together. Like, I was reading one book and picked the other book up and started reading it, and I haven't even hauled this other book. But I picked it up and I started reading it, and I'm like, wow, this is really good. And before I knew it, I was halfway through the book and got really tired because it was really late, and then got up the next day and finished it. So I decided to do these reviews in the same video so I don't have to do a separate one because I have another video to do, and I'm just trying to make use of my time, I guess. So anyway, the two books that I'm going to be reviewing is one, Please Stop Laughing at Me, and this is by Jodi Blanco. I don't know if you can see that with the glare. And then the other one I'm going to be reviewing is The Light Between Oceans, and this is by M.L. Stedman. So I'm going to start out with Please Stop Laughing at Me because I actually finished this book first. This is actually a nonfiction. The author of the book is the person that is being wrote about, Jodi Blanco. And this, if you cannot guess, is a book about bullying and the cost of bullying. Like I said, when I first started, I was very engaged. This was a very engaging book for me. And I think it's really important for more people to be aware, not necessarily the people on the outside looking in, but those who are the bullies need to be made aware when they are adults of the torture that they had bestowed upon their victims. And it's just horrendous. The story in this book is just horrendous of what Jodi Blanco went through and how there is never any I don't even know what the word I'm trying to think of. Nobody takes the blame. There's no consequences at all from the people, these bullies. They don't have to face anything. And it seems like when bullies grow up, they just get to keep bullying, and then they get to forget about the pain that they had caused somebody else, and they're never made aware of how they made somebody feel. So this is Jodi Blanco's way of saying, listen, this is my life, and this is how you made me feel. And I hate the whole concept of bullying. I think it's a horrible thing. And I was one of those people that was bullied, not to the extent of this. Like, there would be name calling and, you know, snide remarks and stuff like that, which, you know, I was always able to just blow that off because, you know, sticks and stones. But in the case of this and in so many other instances, it's horrible. And these bullies don't face any consequences in most cases. I felt so much for Jodi in this book. And I was like, wow. And it just seemed like there was nobody she could really trust. She was always, you know, there was always excuses. Excuses made from the teachers, excuses made by her parents, excuses made even by her psychologist saying she's too emotional. And okay, let's let you step in and you fill her shoes for just one day. Just one day, you step in there and take her place. And then you say, you know, she's too emotional. You know, too much this goes on and nothing is ever achieved. There's no, it just keeps happening. It just keeps going on. And this book just really, you know, I mean, I've always been aware of it, obviously, because I said, you know, I went through some of this when I was in school. But when you just read it, I mean, anytime you see it, you know, it happened to this girl, or my daughter will come home and say, they were saying these mean things, you know, to this girl, you know, and that kind of stuff. But when you actually just read a book, you're that much more aware of this problem. And I didn't understand the characters in the book. I didn't understand her parents. I didn't understand her psychologist. I didn't understand the teachers, how they can just turn their head and, you know, buck up, you know, be stronger, or I think you're just being over dramatic, you know. And we all know teenagers can be dramatic. I've had 3, okay, and my youngest can really be dramatic. Thankfully, she's not bullied in school, but, you know, we all know how drama can, you know, get blown up. But in this case, it's just, in the case of bullying and being the victim, I don't think dramatics are really all that involved. I mean, when your child is coming to you with obvious issues, how can you, you know, think that she's just being dramatic? You know, and I just think that this problem needs to be tackled once and for all, and it's never going to get, you know, to that point when there's always excuses. And I don't know, it just, the whole issue touches home with me. Like I said, not to the extent as what you see today. You know, I never had the feeling of, you know, wanting to commit suicide or, you know, taking out aggressions on somebody, that kind of stuff. But it happens. It's real life issue book, and I think that's why I enjoyed the book, because I related to it, for one, and for two, it's real life issues that are going on. You know, every once in a while, it's good to take a step back from our fantasy world in books and read something that's true life, realistic issues, you know, that we are battling today in this world. And I rated this a 4 out of 5 stars simply because of the issue, or the excuses that these people in her life that are supposed to be idols, or supposed to be people for her to look up to, and they're making excuses for what's going on. And that irritated me really bad, because if my daughter came home and she was off flipping out, or she was upset, or she had bruises or cuts, or I wouldn't question her. You know, I would say, okay, I believe you, and try and make things better for her. They just kept saying, you know, you're different. And that's like saying, okay, well, because I have something different about me, it's okay to hurt me. And her difference is the fact that, well, I guess it wouldn't hurt because you know it from the start. The difference is that she speaks up for what she believes. And, you know, most people see bullying going on and they just turn the other way. And she, you know, speaks up for those people, and it put her in a bad spot. And how people can turn on just that quickly. They can turn on you. Anyway, I'm rambling now, but this is a must-read book, especially for people that have teenagers who are in a bad spot, or even those that just have teenagers. You know, it's important for us to express to them as well. Do not bully people who have less than you. Do not bully people that others think are below. You know, don't get yourself in that position to where you're hurting somebody else. So anyway, Please Stop Laughing at Me by Jody Blanco. If you've not read the book, pick it up. It's fabulous. It's a great story, and I know you're probably going to feel a little frustrated like I did in a lot of this book, but it's really worth the read. Okay, so, alright. Next one that I'm reviewing is The Light Between Oceans by M.L. Stedman. And I heard a ton about this book. I'm like, oh, well, you know, I should pick that book up and read it. Well, I actually found it. I believe it was $2 at the Goodwill. And I'm like, I cannot believe they have this book. And I've had it for months, and I just didn't pick it up. And I rated this book 3 stars. And the reason for that is because I really did not like one of the main characters. Oh, Isabel. See, I can't even remember her name. I didn't really like her character because the story is about this man and woman, and he's a light keeper. He works at the lighthouse. He has to keep things running, and he brings his new wife here. They have 3 miscarriages, and she's hearing this baby crying on the wind, and he's thinking, oh, well, this is just because what we've been through. But actually a boat is docked on the beach, and there's a dead man in the boat and a live baby. And she convinces her husband that it's okay for us to cover this up and to keep the baby and make her our own. And I don't understand how that is right. I mean, it's not your child. And she's chalking it up to, oh, well, the mother's obviously dead because there's her sweater wrapped around the baby, what have you. And that made it okay for them to keep the child. I also didn't like Tom as well either because he showed such weakness and going along with his wife on this whole adventure of this taking over this baby's life. The imagery of this Janus Rock place where the lighthouse is was beautiful. It was described beautifully. The town is described beautifully. The town's people are described beautifully. But it's definitely more plot driven than character driven. I just, like I said, didn't care for. I could tolerate Tom more than I could tolerate Isabel, I guess is how I'm going to say it. They both kind of bothered me a little bit. So anyway, they take her into town, you know, everything's fine or whatever. Well, stuff starts happening, and the story goes on from there. I'm not going to give anything away because I'm sure there's people that might not have read this book yet and might want to, so I don't want to give away any spoilers. So, yeah, the ending of the book was very emotional. I'll give it that, and that's probably what kept it at a 3-star. It was a very emotional read, especially there at the end. And I would hate for anybody, any of these people, to feel what they were feeling in this whole sordid affair. And yeah, that's about all I can say for it, because this would be I could easily give spoilers away talking about this book, because I had several issues with the story itself. M.L. Stedman is a great writer. Don't get me wrong. But it was just... It's just the book itself. I know that our author meant to write it the way that it was wrote. But there was just issues that I had with the way things were happening. And like I said in the beginning, the very first thing, when does it become right that you can just take a child and claim it as your own child? I mean, they did save her, because if they wouldn't have found her, then she probably would have died if she was left in the boat and they were like sailing around. I mean, obviously she would have died. So that part of it, you know, they saved her life pretty much. But the ending of the story was very emotional. It touched me like hardly any other books ever touched me, except maybe Hopkins' books. Hers always do that. But very touching, very emotional. 3 stars. It is definitely worth reading, and maybe you can form your own opinion and feel a different way about it. If you have read this book, or either of these books, let me know in the comments below. I'd be interested in hearing what you think about either one. That's what these reviews are for. They're for discussing our thoughts and feelings on these particular books. So 3 stars, 4 stars. Check them out, guys. They're well worth the read. Especially if you like those emotional kind of books, because they were both pretty emotional, whether I disagree or agree with issues that come from either one of them. So anyway, guys, like I said, post comments if you've read either one of these or you want to know anything about them. Just let me know what you think. Thanks for staying tuned, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye, guys.